Family, hello. I'm still working on my intro, my perfect intro for all my videos. Obviously, I have not figured it out. This is for our overview for Unit 6. I mentioned this in the solutions for the multiple choice. So if you've already listened to me say this, I apologize. I'll just say it again, just in case. The intention for this overview is supposed to be the place, this is supposed to be the place where you gather all the information that you might want to have if you could use this on the exam. So anything that you think would be useful or that you have a hard time remembering, you want that to be on your chapter overviews. You always want to go into it with the intention, if I could have this with me, what would I want? And then the goal is, before you test, to try to memorize every single thing that's on your overview. So then it's like having this with you when you test. The perfect order to do this would be to do this before you do your review, and then do your review and add in anything that you need to help you on this little space that I have left. So if you're doing it in the reverse order, then that's totally fine too. But usually I try to give you your overview before the review. On a lot of this, I'm not really going to talk about it. I think that it's pretty self-explanatory, and I'm only showing you mine to give you an idea of what you could write. You should write what is helpful to you. You should not write what I write because I wrote it and you think that that's what you need to do. Fill into these areas of your overview what will help you the most. So I'm basically just going to just keep it here, and you can freeze and copy the things down. One thing that I wanted to mention on your interpreting, these are the sentence frames, and where I have the word context, you will want to add in the specific context for that problem, and usually it's that sentence that we highlight at the beginning of the prompt for the confidence interval. I also wrote down here that we want to start thinking about capture and contain as the same kind of thing, because the AP board transfers or switches between these two a lot. So make sure that you know that capture, they'll use that in the same way that they use the word contain, and you'll see both. One really important thing is that you know that your point estimate is what you're calculating from your sample, and it's what your confidence interval is based off of, so it's always the center of your confidence interval. This picture here is to remind you that when we are talking about a confidence level, we're literally talking about how many of our confidence intervals would capture the true value. And in this case, I think it's something like 96% of our intervals capture the true value. So we have a 96% confidence. Added in at the center is just a little X bar. It's just trying to reinforce the idea that the center of your confidence interval is the average that you calculated from the sample that you have, or the proportion that you calculated from the sample that you have. This picture here I thought was a really great graphic of why the interval is wider when you have more confidence. So which net are you more confident you would catch a fish with? Well, this guy, for sure. This guy, not as much. And notice how much wider this one is than this one. This I'm just using to add in all the information that's important to me for a confidence interval. Center is my point estimate. The entire length is my width. So margin of error would be width divided by 2, and width would be 2 times margin of error. Here I have highlighted specifically what the margin of error is, what elements it's made up of, and how you change the size of your margin of error. This part is really, really important for your test. These are just our conditions for a Z interval and a T interval. You want to make sure that you know how to distinguish between the two, that you're 100% sure that you know when to use each one, and that you're comfortable checking conditions. These are our critical values if we have a T distribution. This one I think I worded poorly. What should you, or I should say, if the problem is about proportions, we don't use degrees of freedom. We use the Z critical values, but you can still use your pink chart. It's the degrees of freedom of infinity. And that lends very well into the next section of this overview, which is that the reason that you can use degrees of freedom infinity as your Z critical is because when your sample is large, your T distribution looks exactly like your Z distribution. So if your sample size is as large as it could possibly be, then this orange curve actually looks like the purple curve. So in here, one thing to note is that the orange curve has more variability because the tails are heavier, which means more of the data is farther from the center. For the purple curve, the Z curve, it is less variability because most of the data is in the center and not in the tails. T gets closer to the purple curve as you increase sample size. Backside, you should really fill in on these top two questions what works best for you. I have a hard time giving you guidance on these particular issues because I've done these so much that it's automatic that I know if it's a proportion or a mean. So if this is something you need a little bit of help with, I would highly suggest that you ask a friend or somebody else that is taking this or has taken it, because I bet you they have some really good solutions. For me, this is what I would look for. So you may want to add in different things there that would help you. For this section, the box plot and the histogram and the NPP for that matter, those aren't the only ones. You could have used a dot plot. You could use, there's another one, but a stem and leaf. But I think these are the most common. Down here, we're just doing calculations. Here, I should mention that when you're deciding if a distribution has outliers, you really need to know if those are true outliers, like mathematically calculated outliers, which is 1.5 times IQR. So be really careful about that. And then here is just calculations for needed sample size, and I'm hoping that this is what you feel the best about because it's the last thing that we did. This section down here is for you to add in anything extra that you would need on the test, anything extra that you needed in order to be successful on the review. I mentioned in the review video, if you guys have any questions, please email me. Come find me on Monday. I am more than happy to help you. I would not wait until the class period that you're going to take the test to get your questions answered. So hopefully you are watching this sometime before Monday so that you can come see me on Monday to get the help that you need, or you can email me and I can get you a video to help you on Monday. Okay, that's it for your overview.